They say the truth is the greatest gift you can give someone, even when it burns everything to the ground. The green digits on the microwave read 11:17 p.m. when Clara finally came through the front door. Her heels struck the hardwood sharp and heavy, like rounds being loaded into a gun. I was still sitting at the kitchen table, fork paused midair, finishing the last bite of leftover lasagna, watching my wife of 22 years walk in with the confidence of someone who thought she owned the place. "So," she said, tossing her purse onto the counter like she was making a dramatic entrance on stage. "You know what happened tonight, Ethan?" Her lipstick was smeared, her hair looked like she'd run her hands through it too many times, and the smell hit me before the words did, some high-end cologne that sure as hell wasn't mine. She admitted, without emotion, that she had an affair with her boss at his office. Then she smiled, slow and cruel. She added that she wouldn't hesitate to repeat the act. I kept chewing, taking my time, enjoying the moment almost as much as the melted cheese. After 22 years of marriage, it seemed she'd finally decided to tell the truth about something. When I finished the bite, I swallowed, set the fork down neatly, and looked at her the same way I would if she'd commented on the weather. "Should I clap?" I asked, "or would you prefer I order dessert so we can really celebrate?" Her face twisted into that ugly sneer I'd learned to hate over the last 5 years. "You're pathetic, Ethan," she snapped. "Sitting here eating your sad little dinner while I'm out actually living. When was the last time you made me feel anything? When was the last time you even tried?" I stood up without a word, carried my plate to the sink, and started washing it carefully, almost ritualistically. The warm water ran over my hands, steady and grounding. "Well," I said calmly, "given that you've been working late every night for the past 6 months, I guess the last time was Valentine's Day. You remember that night you said you were exhausted because of that big campaign for Lang Industries?" She laughed, sharp and dismissive. "God, you're such a loser." Kicking off her heels, she turned toward the stairs. "I'm taking a shower. Don't wait up." I dried my hands on a dish towel and stood there listening, her steps climbing the stairs, then the bathroom door slamming shut. After that, the house went quiet, except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the distant rush of running water. 22 years. 2 full decades of building a life together. Raising our daughter, Lily. Burying my father. Fighting through her mother's cancer. Losing 3 jobs between the 2 of us. Nearly losing the house in 2008. All of it wiped away by a confession delivered with the same energy as announcing what she'd eaten for lunch. I walked to the living room window and stared out at Maple Street. The neighborhood had seen better days. Roofs sagged, paint peeled, and Mrs. Benson's yard looked like the surface of the moon, but it had been home. Or at least, I thought it was. The shower was still running when I made my first real decision. I pulled 3 heavy-duty garbage bags from under the kitchen sink and headed upstairs to our bedroom. Clara's side of the walk-in closet told its own story: designer dresses, shoes that cost more than my monthly car payment, handbags that could have paid down our credit cards. I yanked everything off the hangers and shoved it into bags without slowing down. 20 minutes later, all 3 bags were packed, and I was already filling a 4th. The shower shut off, and soon I could hear the blow-dryer humming. I pictured her admiring herself in the mirror, already planning whatever came next. I dragged the bags downstairs, hauled them out the front door, and lined them up neatly on the lawn like oversized holiday gifts. The October air was sharp, and I watched my breath puff out in small clouds as I worked. Across the street, Mrs. Harper's porch light was on. She was probably peeking through the curtains, already rehearsing the story she'd tell at the grocery store tomorrow. Back inside, I grabbed my phone and scrolled until I found Lucas Moreno. We'd played poker together for 15 years before he went to law school and turned into the most vicious divorce attorney in 3 counties. He picked up on the second ring. "Ethan? Man, it's almost midnight. Everything okay?" "I need divorce papers," I said. There was a long pause. "What happened?" "Clara admitted she's been sleeping with her boss," I said. "Said she'd do it again. Her stuff's on the lawn, and a 22-year marriage just died in my kitchen." "Damn," he said quietly. "I'm sorry. I can get papers ready by morning, but are you sure you want to move this fast?" People say things they don't always mean when they're. She meant it, Lucas. Trust me. Another pause. All right. I'll need the basics. Assets, debts, custody stuff. We spent the next hour breaking down our entire life. The house. Both cars. Lily's college fund. My 401k. Clara's rising salary at Lang Industries. The credit cards. It felt like performing an autopsy, labeling each part of our life before throwing it away. I was hanging up when I heard her voice from upstairs. Ethan? Where are all my clothes? For the first time in months, I smiled. She appeared in the doorway wearing my old Chicago Bears t-shirt, her face twisted with pure rage. Her hair hung wet and dark around her face, and without makeup, she looked every bit of 41. My clothes are on the lawn, she said quietly. Too quietly. I noticed, I replied. Funny how that worked out. She stormed across the kitchen and got right in my face. This close, I could smell her usual lingerie soap, mixed with that same cologne. You think this is funny, she hissed. You think humiliating me is some kind of joke? Humiliate you? I laughed, honestly amused. No, sweetheart. I'm pretty sure you handled that part on your own. I'm just managing the cleanup. Before she could respond, the doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw a young guy in a cheap suit holding a manila envelope. Lucas didn't waste time. Ethan Lang, he asked. That's me. Divorce papers from James Moreno. Sign page 3 and page 7. I signed, thanked him, and shut the door. Behind me, Clara stood frozen, her face drained of color. You already filed, she asked. I handed her the papers. Seemed like the obvious next step. I'm not asking for alimony, and I'm fine splitting everything down the middle, even Lily's college fund. She's an adult now anyway. Clara lowered herself onto the couch, the papers spread across her lap, staring at them like they might rearrange themselves. Ethan, she said quietly, maybe we should slow down and actually talk about this. Maybe we can still fix things. Fix what, exactly? I asked. You slept with your boss and announced it like you'd just hit the jackpot. What part of that is supposed to be a discussion? She shook her head quickly. It was a mistake. I'd been drinking. Victor was being so supportive with the Hartley account, and it just happened. Victor? I leaned forward and sat across from her. Victor Lang? The Victor Lang who owns Lang Industries? The married guy with 3 kids who lives in a mansion on Lakeshore Drive? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. Well, I said, nodding slowly, that clears up the late nights and the sudden interest in designer clothes. How long? I asked. It doesn't matter. It matters to me, I said. How long, Clara? She finally looked up from the paperwork, and for the first time in years, I saw something real in her face. Shame. 6 months, she whispered. About 6 months. Half a year. 6 months of lies. 6 months of coming home and kissing me goodnight with his presence still clinging to her. 6 months of sitting across from me at dinner while mentally scheduling her next betrayal. Sign the papers, I said. What about Lily? She asked, her voice cracking. This is going to destroy her. Lily's 19, I said. She's in college. She'll hurt, but she'll survive. Kids usually do. Her hands trembled slightly as she signed where she was told. When she finished, she looked up at me, eyes wet. I never wanted it to happen like this. No, I said calmly. You wanted it to happen quietly. There's a difference. She went upstairs to get dressed. A few minutes later, I heard her talking on the phone. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught enough. Divorce? Yes. This morning. I don't know what we're going to do. While she was distracted, I did something that would have felt petty just 12 hours earlier, but now felt like balance being restored. I called Victor Lang's house. A woman answered on the third ring.
Lang residence. Mrs. Lang, I said, this is Ethan Benson. I think we need to talk about your husband and my soon-to-be ex-wife.
The silence on the other end stretched so long I thought she'd hung up.
Finally, she spoke. How long have you known? About 12 hours. And how long did you suspect? 6 months. Maybe longer. The late meetings. The trips that weren't on his calendar.
The wardrobe change. Her voice stayed steady, almost tired.
What do you want from me, Mr. Benson? Nothing, I said. I just figured you deserved to know it's not suspicion anymore. Clara confessed last night.
I see, she replied.
Thank you for telling me.
I suppose we'll both be shopping for good attorneys. When I hung up, I felt a strange sense of satisfaction. If Clara wanted to blow up our marriage, she could deal with the fallout. She came downstairs about 20 minutes later, wearing yesterday's clothes and carrying a small overnight bag. I'm going to stay with Mia for a few days while we figure things out. Mia Reynolds, her best friend from work. Another ambitious climber who treated people like rungs on a ladder.
Take your time, I said. I'll be here.
She paused at the door.
Ethan. I really am sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I am. I believe you, I said. I'm sorry too. For what?
I looked at her standing there, bag in hand, about to walk out of the life we'd built together. For not ending this 5 years ago, when you stopped loving me.
She left without another word.
Lily called 3 hours later, her voice sharp and angry.
Dad, what is going on? Mom just called me crying.
She said you kicked her out and filed for divorce.
I was sitting in my home office, staring at my computer screen, pretending to review a network security proposal for a client in Detroit. In reality, I couldn't focus on anything except the strange lightness in my chest, like I'd been holding my breath for years and finally remembered how to let it out.
Your mother had an affair, I said.
She told me last night. I filed for divorce this morning. That's it. An affair? Lily snapped. Mom wouldn't do that.
Your mother is 41 years old, I said gently. She makes her own decisions. Some of them aren't good ones, but they're still hers. I could hear her crying, and it tore me apart.
Lily was a sophomore at Northwestern, studying journalism. Smart as hell and stubborn enough to outdo both her parents combined.
This wasn't how I wanted her to learn that her family was falling apart. Dad, you have to fix this, she said.
You have to talk to her. People make mistakes. Some mistakes you can come back from, I said softly. Others, you can't. This is ridiculous, she shot back. So she cheated. Big deal. Half the couples in America deal with infidelity and move on, I said.
The other half don't have wives who brag about it and promise to do it again.
That stopped her for a moment.
Then she said, maybe she was drunk.
Maybe she didn't mean it. Maybe, I replied. But I'm not willing to spend the next 20 years finding out. Lily hung up. I wasn't shocked.
She'd always been closer to her mother.
Clara had spent years playing the fun parent while I handled responsibility. Now I was the villain, the guy who blew up the family over one mistake. An hour later, my phone rang again.
This time it was my brother Ryan calling from Phoenix. Clara called Grace, he said immediately. Told her you lost your mind and threw her out over nothing. Grace was Ryan's wife, kind, trusting, and someone who'd always liked Clara. I could picture that conversation perfectly.
Did she mention she's been sleeping with her boss for 6 months? I asked. There was a pause. Jesus, Ethan, are you serious? Dead serious. She confessed. Said she'd do it again. I filed this morning. Damn, he said. I'm sorry. What do you need? That's why Ryan was my favorite person in the family. No judgment. No sermons. Just the right question. I need people to know the truth, I said. Clara's already started painting me as the bad guy.
I'm not going to drag her through the mud, I told Ryan, but I'm not letting her rewrite the past either.
Fair enough, he said. Consider it handled. He sighed.
Grace is going to be furious when she realizes Clara played her.
Clara's always been good at that, I replied.
Playing people is how she climbed as high as she did.
We talked for another 20 minutes, mostly logistics and what the next few weeks might look like.
Ryan offered to fly out if I needed backup, but I told him not to worry. The truth was, for the first time in years, I actually felt steady, like I had control over my own life again. The rest of the day passed quietly. I finished the Detroit proposal, ordered Chinese takeout, and put a Cubs game on in the background. It almost felt normal. Almost. The biggest difference was the silence, no criticism, no passive-aggressive comments, no constant tension hanging in the air.
Just peace.
Around 10 that night, my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize.
This is Victor Lang. We need to talk.
I stared at the screen for a full minute before typing back. I replied that it wasn't true, but then I received another message: your wife kicked me out.
This is your fault. I laughed and responded that I wasn't responsible for her affair. A few seconds passed, then another text. Meet me tomorrow. Flanagan Bar on 5th, 7 p.m.
The smart move would have been to block him and let the lawyers do their jobs.
I knew that. But curiosity crept in, followed closely by anger. This guy had been sleeping with my wife for 6 months, and now he wanted to pin the fallout on me? Fine. 7 p.m.
But you're buying the drinks. I set the phone down and turned my attention back to the game. The Cubs were losing badly, which felt about right. Some nights, nobody comes out ahead. Flanagan was exactly what you'd expect: dark wood, flickering neon beer signs, and a bartender who looked like he'd heard every confession known to man and forgotten them all by morning. A place where middle-aged guys went to drown regret and pretend they still had options. I got there at 6:55 and ordered a bourbon, neat.
Victor Lang walked in at 7:03. I recognized him instantly from the business section of the Tribune. Tall. Silver hair.
An expensive suit that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. He looked like the kind of man who told himself that every bad decision was just another strategic move. He spotted me and walked over, hand outstretched like we were about to exchange business cards.
Ethan Benson? I glanced at his hand and ignored it. Victor Lang. The guy who's been sleeping with my wife.
His hand dropped, and he sat on the stool beside me.
This is uncomfortable for both of us, he said. No, I replied, lifting my glass. It's uncomfortable for you. I'm just having a drink.
The bartender came by, and Victor ordered a scotch on the rocks. Top shelf, of course. After a sip, he turned toward me. Look, Ethan, I know you're upset, but honestly, we're both victims here. I nearly choked on my bourbon.
Victims?
Walk me through how you're a victim in this story.
Clara pursued me, he said.
She told me she was miserable at home.
That you two were basically roommates.
That you hadn't touched her in years.
And you believed her?
Why wouldn't I, he said defensively. She's attractive, smart, and she seemed genuinely lonely.
I motioned for another drink. This conversation was going to require it. Let me ask you something, I said. In all those late-night heart-to-hearts about her awful marriage, did she mention that I've been asking her to go to counseling for 3 years? Did she tell you about the anniversary trip I planned that she canceled for a work emergency? Or that I stopped trying to touch her because she kept shutting me down?
For the first time, his confidence cracked. She said you'd grown apart.
We had, I said.
Because she was already planning her exit and you were part of the plan. I took a sip of fresh bourbon and studied his face. So tell me, I continued, how long did it take before she suggested you leave your wife? The look in his eyes answered for him.
Jesus, I muttered. She already floated the idea, didn't she?
Probably sold you a whole future running Lang Industries together, maybe even changing the name.
Lang Benson Enterprises, right? He didn't respond. Let me guess, I went on.
She told you she never really loved me. That she only stayed because of Lily. But now Lily's in college, so she's finally free to chase her happiness. Victor stared into his glass like it might explain how his life went sideways so fast.
Here's the thing, I said. She wasn't wrong about us being over.
That marriage died years ago. But she didn't stay because of Lily.
He looked up. She stayed because of money, I said. Mine.
I put the down payment on the house using my father's inheritance.
Lily's college fund? Mostly my 401k.
When Clara was climbing the ladder 5 years ago, I was the one keeping the lights on.
I finished my second bourbon and stood up.
So congratulations, Victor.
You didn't just sleep with my wife, you destroyed yourself.
Because now she's coming for half of everything I built.
And once that's done, she'll come for half of what you built too. I tossed a 20 on the bar and headed for the door.
Ethan, wait, he called.
I turned around. What? What am I supposed to do now?
I looked at him, this powerful, successful man who had just realized he'd been outplayed by someone colder and smarter than he ever expected.
I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Same thing I'm doing, I said. Pick up what's left and don't make the same mistake twice.
I walked out and left him there, staring into his drink like it might offer answers. Outside, the October air hit my face, cool and clean.
I realized I was smiling.
For the first time since everything fell apart, it felt like I'd finally won a round. The next morning started with a phone call I knew was coming and still didn't want to answer. It was Adam Fletcher, my best friend since college, the guy who stood beside me as best man at my wedding, and Lily's godfather. For 15 years, we'd held monthly poker games with Victor, Joe, and Leo Sanders, the same group of guys we'd grown up with.
Ethan, what the hell is going on? Adam asked. Clara called Olivia last night, crying about how you lost your mind and threw her out over some big misunderstanding.
Olivia, Adam's wife, another carefully placed piece in Clara's support system. I could picture it perfectly, Clara camped out in Mia's guest room, tissues nearby, rewriting history for anyone willing to listen.
There's no misunderstanding, I said.
She's been having an affair for 6 months.
She told me Tuesday night and said she'd do it again. I filed for divorce Wednesday morning. Adam exhaled sharply. Come on, man. Clara wouldn't do that. You two have been together forever. 22 years, I said. Apparently that didn't mean what I thought it did.
There was a long silence.
Look, Adam said finally, I know things haven't been great lately, but don't you think divorce is extreme? Maybe you guys should try counseling.
Something cold settled in my gut.
A rough patch? I said. Adam, she admitted to cheating. What part of that sounds like something therapy fixes? People do stupid things when they're unhappy, he replied. Olivia thinks maybe Clara was just trying to get your attention.
Like a cry for help. A cry for help, I repeated slowly. She supposedly sought attention or help through an affair with her boss at his office.
You don't have to be crude.
Crude?
I snapped. She was crude. I'm just telling you what happened. Another pause. Olivia thinks you might be having some kind of midlife crisis, he said.
The way you've been acting, throwing her stuff on the lawn, embarrassing her in front of the neighbors, it's not like you.
And there it was. Somehow, in less than 3 days, I'd become the unstable one. Clara was the victim.
I was the unhinged husband who couldn't cope with his wife's mistake.
What exactly did Clara tell Olivia? I asked.
That you've been distant for months. That you don't talk to her anymore, don't show affection. That she was lonely and made one bad decision, and instead of trying to work through it, you humiliated her. I dropped into a kitchen chair, suddenly exhausted. This was Clara's real talent, taking every real problem in our marriage and flipping it so the blame landed squarely on me. Adam, I said, 3 months ago I suggested we take a trip.
Just the two of us. That bed and breakfast in Door County we used to talk about. What did she say?
She said she was too busy with work.
Maybe next year.
I continued, my voice steady. 2 months ago, I booked dinner at Chez Laurent for our anniversary. She cancelled an hour before because Victor Lang needed help with a presentation.
Adam didn't say anything. And last month, I went on, I suggested weekly date nights.
Nothing fancy, just time together. She said it felt forced.
Artificial. Maybe she already felt guilty.
Or maybe she was already planning her exit and didn't want to pretend anymore.
Adam sighed. Look, Ethan, I'm not choosing sides. I just think you should slow down before you do something permanent. You and Clara have history.
Had history, I corrected him.
Past tense. What about Lily? What about the life you built together? Lily's an adult, I said. And that life ended the moment Clara decided to build a new one with someone else. We hung up a few minutes later, and I knew things between us would never be the same. Adam had picked a side even if he didn't want to admit it, and it wasn't mine.
I wondered how long it would take for the rest of the group to follow.
Turns out, not long at all. By Friday, I had my answer.
Poker night was scheduled for Saturday, same as always, at my house.
I spent Friday cleaning, stocking up on beer and snacks, setting up the card table in the basement. It was familiar, grounding. Normal. Saturday afternoon, Adam called. Ethan, we're going to have to cancel tonight. Why? I asked. Someone sick?
It's just, with everything going on, we thought skipping this month might be better.
Everything going on? I said. You mean my divorce?
It's awkward, he admitted. Victor and Leo both think you're not handling this well.
Honestly, so do I. Maybe you should talk to someone. What perspective do I need? I asked. My wife cheated.
I divorced her.
That's not complicated. The way you talk about Clara, he said carefully, it doesn't sound healthy. Olivia thinks you might be having some kind of breakdown.
I looked around the basement, the card table ready, the cooler packed with beer, chips and salsa waiting to be opened.
20 years of poker nights, and now I was too unstable to host. So that's it, I said. 2 decades of friendship, gone because I won't pretend my cheating wife is a victim? Nobody's cutting you off, Adam said quickly. We just think you need time to work through your anger. How much time? I asked. A month? A year? Or until I'm ready to apologize to Clara for embarrassing her? Adam didn't answer. That told me everything.
Tell Victor and Leo the first said goodbye, I said, and hung up. I sat in the basement for a long time, staring at the table and the unopened beer. Then I called my brother Ryan. They chose her, I said.
What do you mean? Adam. Victor. Leo. They think I'm unstable because I won't forgive and forget. They canceled poker night because I'm apparently too much to deal with.
Ryan was quiet for a moment. They're lost, Ethan, he finally said.
You don't need friends like that. 20 years, Ryan, I said. Gone because I wouldn't play the understanding husband. He paused. You know what this really means, right? That I'm going to be spending a lot of Saturday nights alone?
No, he said.
It means you're free. Free from a cheating wife. Free from fair weather friends. Free from pretending everything's fine when it isn't. Sometimes losing everything turns out to be the best thing that can happen to you.
That thought kept circling in my head after I hung up with Ryan.
Free.
It was a word I hadn't used to describe myself in years. Free from Clara's constant criticism.
Free from the manipulation. Free from the never-ending sense that I was always falling short.
Free from friends who preferred comfortable lies over uncomfortable truths. Free to figure out who I was without all of them weighing me down. The idea scared me, and at the same time, it felt strangely exhilarating. 3 weeks later, I was back in Lucas Marino's office, pen in hand, signing the final divorce papers. Clara sat across from me with her attorney, Evelyn Carter, a sharply dressed woman with a reputation for bleeding men dry. They'd spent the last hour pushing for more, claiming I'd hidden assets and undervalued the house.
My client believes Mr.
Benson has been vindictive and unreasonable throughout this process, Carter said coolly, sliding another revised proposal across the table.
The emotional distress caused by the public humiliation of Mrs. Benson should be reflected in the financial settlement. Lucas glanced at the paperwork and let out a short laugh. Emotional distress? Your client openly confessed to adultery and said she planned to continue. Carter didn't miss a beat.
Placing her belongings on the lawn in front of the neighborhood was petty and cruel. Sleeping with her boss for 6 months was petty and cruel, I said quietly. Putting her things outside was just efficient.
Clara finally spoke. Ethan, please. Can we just finish this without making it uglier? I looked at her.
She was wearing a new dress, expensive, tailored, probably bought with money from our joint account before I shut it down. Her hair was perfect, makeup flawless.
She looked like someone who'd already gotten everything she wanted. You're right, I said. Let's finish it.
I signed where Lucas pointed. Just like that, 22 years of marriage became a stack of legal papers.
Clara got half the house value. Half my 401k. Half of everything else.
I got my freedom and the quiet satisfaction of knowing she'd soon be splitting her share again when Victor Lang's wife finalized her divorce.
As we were leaving, Clara caught up with me in the parking garage. Ethan, wait. I turned. What is it, Clara?
I know you hate me, she said softly.
And I get why. But I never wanted things to end this badly.
I stared at her.
How did you think they'd end?
She frowned, confused.
What do you mean?
You cheated for 6 months, I said evenly.
You lied to me every single day.
You made me feel crazy for questioning you. You humiliated me in front of friends and family.
What ending were you expecting? I thought maybe you wouldn't find out, she said. Or if you did, maybe we could work through it. Work through it? I said. You told me you'd do it again.
I was angry, she said quickly.
I didn't mean it.
I searched her face, looking for the woman I'd fallen in love with 24 years earlier. She was still there somewhere, buried under ambition, entitlement, and a casual kind of cruelty, but she was there.
The truth is, I said, I would have tried.
If you'd come to me 6 months ago and told me you were unhappy, asked for counseling, separation, even an open marriage, I would have talked.
I would have tried.
She looked hopeful for a moment.
But that's not what you wanted, I continued.
She wanted to stay in the safe marriage with me while also having an exciting relationship with Victor Lang, all while I handled the finances.
That's not fair, she whispered. It is, I said. The only thing you didn't want was consequences. She started crying then.
And for a split second, I felt the old reflex, the urge to comfort her, to apologize for upsetting her. That instinct belonged to the old version of me. The guy who spent years tiptoeing around her moods. I'm sorry, she said through tears.
I really am. I know, I said. But sorry doesn't fix this.
I walked away, leaving her crying in the garage.
It should have felt like a victory. Mostly, it just felt hollow. That night, I called Lily. She'd been avoiding me since the divorce finalized.
I knew Clara had been feeding her a steady diet of stories about my cruelty and refusal to forgive. Hi, Dad, Lily said, her voice cool and distant.
Hey, sweetheart. How's school? Fine. Lily, we need to talk about what happened between your mom and me.
I don't want to, she said.
You made your choice.
What choice was that? You destroyed our family over Mom's mistake. You embarrassed her instead of acting like an adult.
I closed my eyes. Even Lily had swallowed Clara's version whole.
Your mother didn't make a mistake, I said gently. She made repeated, deliberate choices over 6 months.
That's different. Everyone deserves forgiveness, Dad. Some things can't be forgiven, I said. And some things shouldn't be. That's a terrible way to live. Maybe, I replied. But it's better than living as a doormat.
She was quiet for a long moment. I don't understand how you can just throw away 22 years. I didn't throw them away, I said softly. Your mother did when she slept with Victor Lang the first time. She told me it only happened once.
I almost laughed.
Lily, she told me it went on for 6 months. She told me she'd do it again.
Either she lied to me, or she's lying to you. Another long silence. I don't know what to believe anymore. Believe this, I said. I love you more than anything in the world.
That will never change, no matter what your mother says about me.
But I won't apologize for refusing to be humiliated.
I have to go, she said.
I've got a paper due.
Lily, wait, I said. When you're ready to hear the whole truth, I'll tell it.
But I won't compete with your mother for your love.
You'll have to decide on your own who's telling the truth. She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat alone in my quiet house, wrapped in a silence that had become my new normal, and wondered if this was really what winning was supposed to feel like.
2 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Olivia Fletcher at the grocery store.
She was standing in the produce aisle, studying apples with the same seriousness she brought to everything in her life. Ethan, she said when she noticed me, her tone carefully neutral.
How are you? I'm doing okay, I replied. How are Adam and the kids?
They're good, she said.
Adam's been buried in work, trying to make partner.
We stood there for a moment, both of us painfully aware of the subject neither of us was mentioning.
Olivia had been one of Clara's loudest supporters during the divorce, convinced I'd snapped. Olivia, I said finally, can I ask you something?
She shifted uncomfortably but nodded.
What is it? What exactly did Clara tell you about why our marriage ended?
Her shoulders tightened.
Ethan, I really don't think we should. I'd like to know. She let out a slow breath.
She said you two had been drifting apart for years. That you were cold, distant, never talked to her anymore. She said she made one mistake with a coworker just once, and instead of trying to fix things, you threw her out and filed for divorce.
One time? I asked.
That's what she told me, Olivia said quietly. She was devastated.
Said she'd never seen you so angry, so cruel. Putting her things on the lawn. Calling her boss's wife.
She shook her head.
It just didn't sound like you.
I pulled out my phone and scrolled until I found the screenshots I'd saved, the ones I'd discovered on Clara's old phone, the one she forgot to wipe before tossing it into a drawer.
Olivia, I said, I want you to see something. But I need you to really look at it. I handed her the phone. The messages were explicit. Detailed. Dated.
6 full months of texts between Clara and Victor Lang, planning their meetups, talking about their future, making fun of their spouses. Olivia's face drained of color.
Oh my God, Ethan, these are from Clara's phone.
There are dozens more, I said. She handed the phone back like it burned.
I had no idea.
She told me it was one mistake.
One moment of weakness. It wasn't weakness, I said. It was strategy. Look at the dates.
She was planning her exit while making sure she walked away with as much money as possible.
Olivia looked sick. I'm so sorry. I believed her. We all did. She's good at that, I said. Convincing people, it's one of her strengths. What can I do? She asked. How do I fix this?
I looked at her, someone who'd been in my life for 15 years and still believed the worst about me because it was easier than facing the truth.
Tell Adam what you saw, I said. Tell Victor and Leo. And stop treating me like I'm the villain here.
Of course, she said quickly.
Absolutely. Ethan, I'm so sorry.
I should have known you'd never do something like that without a reason.
Should you have known, I asked gently, or should you have asked for my side before deciding I was losing my mind? She didn't have an answer. Over the next few weeks, I had variations of the same conversation. Clara's story started to collapse as more details came out.
Victor Lang's divorce finalized, and his ex-wife made sure the truth was public. Mia Reynolds, Clara's best friend, was exposed as someone who'd known about the affair all along and helped cover it up. That revelation cost her more than a few friendships.
Then Adam called one Thursday night.
"Ethan," he said heavily, "I owe you an apology."
A big one.
"Olivia showed me the messages," he continued.
Jesus.
I had no idea it was that bad.
It was worse, I said. Those were just the ones I found. Why didn't you show us sooner, he asked. Why didn't you give us proof? I thought about that for a moment. Because I shouldn't have had to, I said.
You've known me for 25 years.
You were my best man. Did you really think I'd end my marriage over a one-night stand?
There was silence. We thought maybe you were going through something, he said quietly.
A midlife crisis. Depression. You thought I was crazy. We thought you were hurt and acting irrationally. And instead of backing me up, I said, you cut me off. Another long pause. You're right, Adam said. We failed you. I failed you.
I'm not sure how to fix that, he admitted.
You can start by admitting you believed Clara because it was easier, I said.
It's more comfortable to think your friend snapped than to accept that his wife was lying.
That might be part of it, he said. But the anger in your voice, it scared us.
I was angry, I replied.
My wife of 22 years cheated for 6 months and bragged about it. How exactly was I supposed to sound? I don't know, he said. I've never been there. No, I said. And I hope you never are.
But if you ever find yourself in that place, I hope your friends give you the benefit of the doubt.
We talked for another hour.
By the end, some of the old friendship had returned, not all of it.
That kind of damage doesn't disappear overnight. But enough that I didn't feel completely alone anymore.
Victor, Joe and Leo Sanders called over the next few days with similar apologies.
Poker night was back on, though it wasn't the same.
Trust had been broken, and once that happens, it never fully resets.
Still, it was something. A beginning.
6 months after the divorce, I was finally starting to recognize myself again. I dropped 20 pounds, started working out regularly, and picked up new clients that kept me busy and financially secure. And the house, once a shrine to a failed marriage, finally felt like a home again.
That was the moment Clara called me with news I probably should have seen coming, yet somehow it still caught me off guard.
"Ethan," she said, "I need to talk to you about something."
"All right," I told her. "What's going on?" She didn't hesitate. "Victor and I are getting married." I didn't say anything at first. I needed a second to let it sink in. Then I said what you're supposed to say in moments like that. "Congratulations." "When's the wedding?"
"Next month," she answered.
"Nothing big. Just a small ceremony with family and a few close friends." I asked her if Lily knew. "Not yet. I'm telling her this weekend." "I wanted you to hear it from me first."
"That was thoughtful of her," I said, though I wasn't sure how I actually felt about it.
Then I asked the obvious question. "Is there something you need from me?"
There was a pause. "I was hoping you might talk to Lily," she said.
"She's still upset about the divorce.
She still thinks I broke up the family. I really believe it would help if she heard from you that you're okay with me moving on."
I almost laughed out loud.
Even now, after everything she'd done, Clara was asking me to smooth things over for her.
"Clara," I told her, "I'm not going to lie to Lily just so you can feel better about the choices you made." "I'm not asking you to lie," she pushed back. I'm asking you to help your daughter understand that both her parents have moved on. Have I? I asked. Haven't you?
She replied. That question stuck with me for a moment.
Had I moved on?
I wasn't angry anymore, not like I had been at the beginning. I wasn't lying awake at night plotting revenge or replaying old arguments in my head. Most days, I barely thought about her at all.
I guess I have, I finally said. But that doesn't mean I'm going to manage Lily's feelings for you about your new marriage. She's your daughter too, Ethan.
Exactly, I said. And because she's my daughter, I'm not going to manipulate her emotions to make your life easier.
Clara sighed. I was hoping we could handle this like adults.
We are, I told her. These are just adult consequences for adult decisions. She hung up without saying goodbye, which honestly didn't bother me. Later that night, Lily called me in tears. Dad, Mom told me she's marrying Victor Lang. The guy she cheated with.
I know, I said.
How do you feel about it?
She let out a bitter laugh. How do you think I feel? It's disgusting.
She went on, her voice shaking. It feels like she's showing it off, like she's proud of what she did.
Maybe she is, I said. Some people think getting what they want is a victory, no matter how they go about it.
It's not fair, Dad. She wrecked our family, and now she gets to be happy while you're stuck alone.
Lily, I said gently, I'm not alone. Not completely. And more importantly, I'm not unhappy.
Really?
She asked. I looked around my living room as I answered. After the divorce, I changed everything. I got rid of the furniture that reminded me of Clara and replaced it with things I actually liked.
The walls were painted a warm blue instead of the beige she'd insisted on.
My books filled the shelves.
My music played through the speakers.
My life finally felt like it belonged to me.
Really, I told her.
Then I said something she didn't expect. Your mother didn't destroy our family, sweetheart.
She ended a marriage that should have ended years ago.
Those aren't the same thing. But don't you miss her? She asked. Don't you miss what you had?
I miss the woman I believed I married, I said.
I miss the future I thought we were building together. But that woman and that life weren't real. And I don't miss what our marriage actually was.
Lily was quiet for a long time. I don't know if I can go to the wedding, she finally said.
That's your decision, I told her.
Just make sure whatever you choose is something you can live with, not something driven by anger or by trying to protect me.
What would you do? Honestly? I'd probably skip it. But I'm biased.
She laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months.
Yeah, you are. Lily, I need you to understand something, I said. Your mom isn't evil. She's not a monster. She's someone who makes selfish decisions and then convinces herself they're justified. That doesn't make her happy.
And it doesn't make her life something to envy.
How can you say that? Lily asked. She got everything she wanted. Did she? I said. She wanted safety and excitement. Stability and passion.
She wanted to be married to me and sleep with Victor Lang. She wanted our friends' approval and our family's understanding.
She wanted everything without giving anything up. And she didn't get that.
She lost friends when the truth came out. She lost the respect of our family. She lost you, at least in part. And now she's marrying a man who cheated on his wife with her, which means she's choosing someone she already knows can't be trusted.
That's not winning, Lily. That's just ending up where your choices lead you.
We talked for another hour. By the time we hung up, she sounded lighter, like a weight had been lifted. She was finally seeing things clearly, without guilt or misplaced loyalty clouding her judgment.
Before we said goodbye, she said, Dad, I'm proud of you.
For what?
I asked. For not letting her break you. For walking away. It wasn't strength, I said.
It was self-preservation.
Same thing, she said. Maybe it was. I had no intention of doing anything about Clara's wedding. I'd built a new life. I'd made peace with the past.
But 3 days before the ceremony, something changed.
I was eating lunch at Murphy's Deli when I overheard a conversation at the table beside me. Two women, both dressed well, speaking in those quiet, conspiratorial voices people use when they're sharing gossip. Did you hear about Clara Benson's wedding this weekend? The one marrying her boss? How could I not? Everyone's talking about it.
Apparently Mia Reynolds has been telling people at the country club that Clara's the real victim. That her ex-husband was controlling and emotionally damaging, and she had the affair just to feel alive again.
I nearly choked on my sandwich. That's awful. Poor woman. I know.
And supposedly the ex is still stalking her, trying to ruin the wedding.
Mia says Clara's scared he'll show up and cause a scene. I paid my bill and left without finishing my food. Even after everything, Clara was still playing the victim. And worse, people were still buying it.
That night, I made a decision that probably wasn't smart, but it felt necessary.
I called Lily. Sweetheart, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me.
What is it, Dad?
Are you going to your mom's wedding?
There was a pause.
Then she said, yeah.
I think I should be there for her, even if I don't agree with how all of this happened.
I told Lily, I get it. Whatever you decide, I've got your back. Thanks, Dad, she said. That really means a lot. There's something else, I said. Something I need you to do at the wedding. What is it? She asked, cautious. I want you to give your mom a gift, from me. There was a long pause. Dad, what kind of gift? Nothing flashy, I said. Nothing dramatic. Just something she deserves. Lily hesitated. I don't like the sound of this. Trust me, sweetheart. It's not what you're imagining.
The next morning, I went to a small print shop and had a card made. Gold lettering, elegant script, something that looked like it belonged on a mantle at a fancy wedding. Inside, I wrote a short, polite message: "Congratulations on your wedding, Clara.
I hope you and Victor are happy together.
You deserve each other." Alongside the card, I packed a small box.
Inside, I placed a flash drive.
On it were copies of every text Clara and Victor had exchanged during their affair. Emails from her laptop that laid out her plan to leave me and take as much as she could in the divorce.
But that wasn't the real gift.
The real gift was the note I attached.
For Victor, these are the messages your new wife sent while we were married.
Take a close look at the ones where she talks about manipulating men and how she plans to do the same to you once she gets bored.
Congratulations. You're going to need all the luck you can get.
I handed the box to Lily the night before the wedding.
Dad, what's in here?
She asked, eyeing it nervously.
Just some information, I said. Things Victor should know about the woman he's marrying. Lily's eyes narrowed. This sounds like revenge. No, I said. Revenge is showing up at the wedding and making a scene.
This is just facts. What he does with them is his choice. She stared at the box, conflicted.
What if this ruins the wedding?
Then it ruins the wedding, I said. But Lily, your mother built this on lies.
If the truth can't survive, the marriage doesn't deserve to. I could hear the hesitation in her voice. I don't know if I can do this. Then don't, I told her. Throw it away. Give it back. Forget this conversation. But if you do it, make sure it's after the ceremony. I don't want to ruin the day for anyone else. I just want Victor to know the truth. Lily took the box, still torn.
She loved her mom, but she also wanted justice.
Finally, she said, okay. I'll give it to them at the reception. Thank you, I said. Dad, what do you think will happen when Victor reads this?
I pictured him, successful, confident, convinced he'd found the love of his life in my ex-wife, watching his illusion crumble as he read the messages. He was about to get a very expensive education on the woman he'd married.
And then?
Then, they'll deal with it however they choose.
Either they'll work it out, or they won't. Either way, it's no longer my problem. The wedding itself was at Lakeshore Country Club, the same spot Clara and I had celebrated our 10th anniversary.
I kept myself busy in the garden, planting bulbs for spring, trying not to imagine what was happening across town.
That evening, Lily called. "Dad! I did it. I gave them the package." "How did they react?" I asked.
Victor opened it at the head table. His face went pale. Then he excused himself and went outside.
"And your mom?"
She followed him. Through the window, I could see them arguing in the parking lot. "She cried," he shouted. Then he got in his car and drove off.
He left his own wedding.
He left his own wife, Lily said. Mom came back inside and tried to cover it with some story about a family emergency, but everyone knew. The reception ended early.
I felt strange. Satisfaction that the truth was out, yes.
But sadness too, because it had ruined what should have been her happiest day.
"How's your mom?"
"Devastated. She's staying at Mia's. She called me crying an hour ago, asking if I knew what was in the package." "What did you tell her?"
"The truth.
That you wanted Victor to know who he was marrying.
And?"
"She said, you're a vindictive bastard who can't stand to see her happy."
I laughed.
Even now, it was somehow still my fault.
"Dad, did you know this would happen? Did you expect Victor to leave her?"
I thought about it.
Had I known, or just hoped?
I knew Victor deserved the truth. What he did with it was up to him.
"Mom wants to know if you'll take her back." I stopped in my tracks.
She said maybe this was fate, maybe it was a sign we were meant to be together. She claimed she'd learned her lesson and would never cheat again.
I went silent.
After all the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal.
Clara thought she could just come back.
"Lily, what did you tell her?" "I told her she was crazy if she thought you'd take her back after everything."
"And?"
"She said everyone makes mistakes, and marriage is about forgiveness."
"Some mistakes can't be forgiven," I said. "Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt."
That's what I told her.
"Good," Lily said.
I'm not the man she left, and I'm not her safety net anymore.
We talked a few more minutes, then she had to go.
She was driving back to school, ready to leave the drama behind and focus on her life. After we hung up, I just sat there in my living room, staring at nothing and letting the day sink in.
Clara's marriage, 6 hours, gone.
Victor Lang had figured out the truth about her and didn't even hesitate.
He walked away, leaving the wreck behind.
In a way, the universe had done its work. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt drained, hollow, like I'd run a marathon I didn't want to finish. I poured a bourbon, raised it to the quiet room, and muttered, "Here's to fresh starts."
I drank it down in one long swallow and went straight to bed.
That night, I slept harder than I had in months, almost like my body was catching up on lost peace.
Epilogue, 1 year later.
Lily's graduation was buzzing with families, laughter, and the smell of flowers.
That's when I saw Clara.
She was 3 rows ahead, sitting alone in a simple black dress, looking older than her 42 years, but there was a strange quiet dignity in the way she held herself. After the ceremony, we ended up by the same reception table, both awkwardly hovering, waiting to congratulate Lily.
"Hi, Ethan," she said quietly.
"Clara.
How have you been?"
I asked. "Could be better," she said.
"And you?"
"I'm good. Really good," I said. She studied me like she was taking an inventory, my thinner frame, the confident stance I'd built over the past year, the easy smile I wore without effort. "You look happy," she said, almost surprised. "I am," I told her plainly. "I'm glad," she said, a little softly. "I know you might not believe it, but I really am." Before I could answer, Lily appeared, glowing in her cap and gown, clutching her diploma. She hugged us both, and for a fleeting moment, it looked like a normal divorced family celebrating a milestone.
"I'm so proud of you, sweetheart," I said. "Thanks, Dad. For everything.
For knowing when to walk away, for sticking by me even when I didn't understand," she said.
Tears brimmed in Clara's eyes. "Lily, I'm sorry for putting you in the middle. For so many things, really. I know, Mom."
"We all made mistakes," Lily said, gently. Then she ran off to celebrate with her friends. Clara and I were left standing in silence, thick and uncomfortable.
"Ethan, can I ask you something?" she said eventually. "Go ahead. Do you ever wonder what might have happened if we tried harder? If we'd gone to counseling or actually worked on things instead of just giving up?"
I looked at her, the woman who'd been the center of my world for over 20 years, the woman who had shattered my heart and upended my life.
"No, Clara. I don't think about that," I said. "Why not?" "Because we didn't have problems. You had problems. I had a cheating wife."
She flinched.
"That's not fair." "Fair? You want to talk about fair?" I said.
Fair would have been telling me when you were unhappy instead of sneaking around with Victor Lang.
Fair would have been asking for a divorce instead of an affair. Fair would have been owning your decisions instead of blaming me. I know I made mistakes. "Stop," I said, holding up a hand. "You didn't make mistakes, Clara. You made choices. Choices you knew would hurt people. And every choice has consequences. I lost everything, Ethan. Victor left me. Friends turned their backs.
Even Lily, she barely talks to me," she said, voice breaking.
Wasn't that punishment enough?"
I asked, locking eyes with her for the first time in a long while.
Something like pity stirred inside me. This wasn't punishment, Clara. It was life.
You bet everything on a man just as selfish as you, and you lost.
That's it. Not karma. Not the universe. Just consequences. So, that's it? No forgiveness? No second chances? "I forgave you a long time ago," I said. "Not for you. For me." Holding on to that anger was eating me alive. "But forgiveness doesn't mean letting you hurt me again."
She started crying, and for a fleeting second, I felt that old instinct to comfort her. Then I caught myself, this was a reflex from a man I used to be, married to a woman who no longer existed.
"I should go," I said. "Ethan, wait. I've changed. I get it now."
"I know what I threw away," she said.
I turned slowly. "Then I'd say, you're about a year too late." And I walked away, without looking back. Outside, Lily was waiting. "How'd it go with Mom?" "Exactly how it needed to.
She's struggling alone since Victor left, lost her job, moved in with Mia. I think she finally sees what she lost."
"I'm sorry she's struggling. But that's not my problem anymore," I said. "I know. I just feel bad for her."
"You can feel bad without trying to fix her."
"Took me 22 years to learn that," I said. Lily hugged me tight. "I love you, Dad. Thank you for showing me what self-respect looks like." "I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything." That night, I drove home thinking about Clara.
A year ago, her tears might have shattered me.
Tonight, barely a ripple. Victor Lang? Apparently learned his lesson. Engaged to a woman his own age, never married before. Smart guy. My friends? Slowly letting me back in.
But never blind trust again.
Most of all, me. Stronger, confident, unafraid to call out dishonesty. Expensive lessons, but worth every penny.
At home, I poured a bourbon, sat on the back deck, and looked at the garden I'd built from the ruins of my life. My phone buzzed. For a moment, I panicked, thinking it might be Clara, trying to rewrite history. But it was Jennifer, someone I'd met last month at a bookstore. 3 dates in, and she was everything Clara wasn't: honest, kind, straightforward.
Hope Lily's graduation went well. Looking forward to dinner tomorrow night. I smiled. Perfect. See you tomorrow.
I went inside, locked the door, and felt it, finally, the past fully behind me.
For the first time in over 20 years, I was exactly where I wanted to be.